This one's called The History of Music Games. It was written by Justin Davis on IGN on the 22nd of October 2014. Uh, Now, if you know anything about music games, you'll know exactly what developer I'm about to speak about. Harmonix. And Harmonix are another one of my favourite studios. I have somewhat fallen out of love with them of late, but I'll talk about that at a later point. 2 seconds. Oh. So, again, this is Justin Davis over at IGN. The oldest musical instruments date back around 40,000 years. Humans have been rocking out for a very long time. It would seem rhythm is in our blood. It's no wonder we have music-based video games. In 2001, a little-known company called Harmonix released Frequency for PlayStation 2, with a follow-up called Amplitude in 2003. While early music games had offered their own take on the user interface, perhaps no other games made tapping buttons in time with music as intuitive as Frequency and Amplitude. In these games, the notes travelled down a three-dimensional path towards the player, and you would have to press the buttons when they reached a certain point near the screen. The games were highly intuitive, and it didn't hurt that the soundtracks were wicked catchy. After Frequency and Amplitude, Harmonix made a PS2 singing game called Karaoke Revolution. This 2003 game came with a microphone and used a side-scrolling meter to grade your performance as you belted out vocals in real time, something no other game had done before. Harmonix Frequency, Amplitude, and Karaoke Revolution laid the groundwork for music games that would become household names in just a few short years. All of the elements of the next major revolution in games existed in those three titles, with one exception. In 2005, the music game industry was pedaling on just fine, but it hadn't produced any blockbuster hits. All of that was about to change with the release of Guitar Hero for PlayStation 2. So I will just kind of go back to talk about Amplitude for a moment here. Amplitude, hands down, was a repeat player for me. Even after I completed it 100%, all difficulties, I would go back to the start and just start it again. It is very similar to Rock Band in the sense that it'll come down like Justin was just describing there. 3 buttons, square, triangle, and circle, and you would basically just play Guitar Hero with these 3 little buttons here. And what was really good about it was multi-genred, so it had everything from David Bowie, Garbage, and even Slipknot in some of the harder difficulties. And unfortunately, they did reboot the game a couple of years ago. They launched it on Kickstarter because they didn't think it was going to be too financially viable. And thankfully it met its funding goal. I even backed it. In fact, it's the only game I've backed on Kickstarter now that I think about it. But I have to say I was disappointed because the music choice was all electronic. And I like electronic music, don't get me wrong, but I really like the variety of Amplitude. And I will say I do lean on more the rock and heavy metal side of things. So, by all means, definitely give Amplitude a try. It's probably quite cheap now because it has been a few years after the fact. Also, it's just nice to see those early roots, and oh yeah, I can see how this and that went into Guitar Hero later on. Back to the article. The company that sparked the fire was Red Octane, a game accessory maker that wanted to make a guitar-based music game for PlayStation 2. Impressed by both Frequency and Amplitude, Red Octane's upper brass approached Harmonix to collaborate on the new game. Red Octane would make the guitar controller, while Harmonix would build the software. Needless to say, Harmonix agreed. When Guitar Hero came out in November 2005, there wasn't anything like it on the market. It was an immediate hit with critics, in large part because it was so intuitive. It took many of the elements from Harmonix's previous titles, but elegantly paired them with the guitar peripheral. This might seem like a minor enhancement, but it turns out that when you strum a guitar controller to Black Sabbath's Iron Man, the experience coalesces into something greater than the sum of its parts. Yes, it does. Playing Guitar Hero delivered an experience unlike anything you would get by tapping buttons on a standard controller. It actually made you feel like a rock star. When you strapped that guitar and pressed the fret buttons in time when the notes cascading down your screen, Guitar Hero connected you to those early humans playing music for 40,000 years ago. It also made you feel like you were on stage in the arena with Megadeth or ZZ Top. No small feat. Guitar Hero signaled the start of a new era of music games. Now, I remember first hearing about Rock Band. I had PlayStation 2 official magazine, and I opened it up, and there was these two guys in the denim not blazers, biker jackets, and they were holding this toy control. I'm like, what is this? This is madness. What is this? And I started reading the article, and I thought, wait, Amplitude with a guitar controller? This is crazy. I want it. And sure enough, I made my parents drive 35 miles to our nearest game retailer, and I bought it on day one. I'm starting to think it was actually maybe around my birthday now that I'm looking back. Maybe. I'll check the release date. But no, I got it home. It was in a big sort of a rectangular box. You pop it open, here's your little toy guitar. And I started playing with the little strummer before we even turned on the console or anything. And I just kind of go click, 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 click. And I thought, oh, that's noisy. There's no way you're going to be able to hear that over the music. So we plug it in and we turn on the game and you start playing, and it was transformative. It's basically just like Justin says here. It really made you feel like you were a rock star, especially when you got to the end of a song. The crowd starts cheering and it brings up your score. It really does delve into something. Now, I was studying music at high school at the time. I just started high school, I think. I may be wrong there. But, you know, I had a long list of songs that I was already familiar with. So there wasn't as much a learning curve in terms of the songs. I already knew the rhythms. So I found myself going up to the harder difficulty very quickly. With that said, reaching, I believe the very last song I had to complete was Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne. And I had some friends over and they were watching me play it, and I was getting genuinely aggravated by it. Because at the end of the song there is a solo section which is very repetitive. And I just couldn't nail it. I'd get all the way 5 minutes into the 6 minute song, and then just to fail right at the end because of this little repetition bit, and it was aggravating. I got so angry, I took the guitar controller off, I took my shirt off, this wee tubby boy, threw the shirt down, and I was like, I'm gonna do this! I fling it back on, and I just get angry with it. I get angry, and I'm just playing, and the focus was intense. You'd think it was some kind of grand final at a gaming tournament, and the sense of relief and release when I got to the end of the song. I think I only done it. I'm sure Guitar Hero has the first Guitar Hero game has a 5-star system. I think I must have completed it with like 3 stars, but I didn't care. I got to the end of that song. It was the most strenuous thing I've ever done with a PS2 up until that point, but I felt like a rock god. Anyway, back to the article. In 2006, Harmonix and Red Octane released Guitar Hero 2 for PlayStation 2, with an Xbox 360 version coming the following year. The game took off like a rocket, becoming the 5th best-selling game of 2006. Fueled by the success of the series, Red Octane and Harmonix became hot properties in the business world. Activision bought Red Octane in 2006, prior to the release of Guitar Hero 2. Next came the release of Guitar Hero Encore Rock the 80s, which was essentially an expansion pack to Guitar Hero 2. Tellingly, this was the last game that Harmonix and Red Octane would collaborate on. After meeting its contractual obligations on the Guitar Hero franchise, Harmonix was scooped up by Viacom's MTV Games, which effectively cut it off from working on any future Guitar Hero games. Harmonix had to forge a new path, so it decided to do something much bigger than Guitar Hero. This idea turned into Rock Band, a 2007 game that took the next logical step by expanding the instrument lineup to include drums, a microphone, in addition to guitar. A full Rock Band set came packaged in a tremendously large box that sold for a cringe-worthy price of $200. The thing is, people actually bought it, including yours truly. You couldn't walk into a Best Buy or GameStop without having to sidestep a towering stack of Rock Band boxes piled in the main foyers of the stores. These sets sold in crazy numbers, racking up 4 million sales in their first year. Do that math. The game became a centerpiece at parties and friendly gatherings, with gamers and non-gamers alike teaming up to rock out tracks like Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun, Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter, Nirvana's In Bloom, and Rush's Tom Sawyer. Me, me, me. Better yet, by now the music industry started to realise these games were moneymakers. So most of the tracks were original recordings rather than the cover versions that populated the original Guitar Heroes. Meanwhile, on the Guitar Hero side of things, Activision hired Tony Hawk Pro Skater developer Neversoft to keep the franchise alive. In 2007, they released the guitar-centric Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock, which Activision called the best-selling game of the year. Seeing the full band experience with Harmonix, that Harmonix delivered with Rock Band, however, Neversoft followed suit in 2008 with the release of Guitar Hero World Tour, a game that included vocals and drums in addition to guitars, plus 86 original versions of classic songs. I'll stop again there, sorry, I meant to stop just before we went to the Guitar Hero. Rock Band was another monumental thing. I mean, we're maybe talking 7 or 8 years after the original Guitar Hero at this point. And by this point, I was a young teen working in a video game retailer. And I had left temporarily because I was on a temporary contract. I left for a few months and then came back originally. The game released during that period in between. I still had connections. And two very lovely people called Gemma and Dane texted me the day it came in. And it wasn't due to release till the Friday. This must have been a Monday. They just said, it's here. So I couldn't drive at the time. I was like, Mum, take me to the store, please. I've got a very important delivery to pick up. And the box was huge, just as Justin was saying there. It was massive. Gemma tried to lift it out the back door of the retailer by herself. It was massive. But no, Rock Band, like, to come from Guitar Hero into that Rock Band experience, you know, I wasn't even fussed about the guitar. I let my friends play guitar. I wanted the drums, those big, loud, thrashy drums, because obviously it was hard plastic, so every time you hit it, it was like, and every time you're stomping on it, the amount of times my dad would shout up and say that's enough for tonight, because obviously my bedroom being upstairs and them being downstairs in the living room, it was very, my parents must have been thick-skinned. Thank you, Mum and Dad. But also, it was one of the first things that was seen as more of a platform than a game. I suppose it's one of the earliest examples of microtransactions and DLC. And to be honest, like, you were getting good value for your money. Every Tuesday, I think it was, they would release new songs on the store, and you'd get a pack of free songs for like £3.50. And that was that was a financial sink every Tuesday. I'm buying new songs for Rock Band, and I'm actually really disappointed. I've came back to Xbox after spending most of last generation on PS4. So on one hand, it's great because I've come to Xbox Series S. I've got all these Xbox One games that I've never ever touched that I can now play. But one of the big things touted was backwards compatibility, that you can go into your game library and re-download your old games, and lo and behold, Rock Band is not there, along with all the perks I've got. Now, I've still got my my Xbox 360 sitting in storage somewhere back there, so I could just fire it up and, you know, go and buy a cheap Rock Band set off eBay. I say cheaper, still go for quite a penny. It's a little bit evergreen, but you know, it's niche now, so obviously those prices will inflate. But Rock Band, that was, I'm sure I peer pressured a lot of friends into playing it with me. Ryan, I just came over to hang out, I don't care. Pick up that guitar, we're playing. Anyway, I digress. So back to the article, talking about World Tour and the Guitar Hero side. By the time World Tour came out, however, Harmonix had released Rock Band 2, with 84 original recordings, plus 1,000 tracks available for digital download. I should also mention that they were cross-compatible. You could export your songs into Rock Band 2, if I recall. Both games sold well through the holiday season of 2008. But now that the genre was more popular than ever, the two companies were releasing AAA peripheral-based music games. Things started to get out of control. Activision began pumping out Guitar Hero games at an incredible clip, with only minor innovations between releases. Harmonix did the same with Rock Band games, although most of its installments honed the core concepts and added new layers. The frenzy of the music games releases couldn't last, thanks mostly to the sheer number of games put out in the market. Green Day got a Rock Band game, so did the Beatles, and oddly Lego. Aerosmith got a Guitar Hero game, followed by Metallica and Van Halen. Both franchises came to iOS and PSP, with Rock Band Unplugged, while the Nintendo DS got 4 Guitar Hero games and a plug-in peripheral of its own, not to mention thousands of downloadable songs that are released between the two franchises. Brief note on the DS version there, what he was talking about was it's kind of like a... It felt like a cassette, if you're holding a cassette like that, an old tape cassette, and it had 4 little buttons on top, you plugged it in your DS that way. I never played it personally, but I imagine you get a fair bit of cramp holding it like that. You're not actually like holding it like a real guitar, yeah, I passed on that. I had a DS, but I passed on that. Activision released Guitar Hero 5 and DJ Hero with a turntable peripheral in 2009, followed by DJ Hero 2 in 2010. For its part, Harmonix was less prolific with the Rock Band series, but it also kept the games coming. Between the two franchises, a wobbling, faltering, unsustainable number of games were released between 2005 and 2010. Sales were great for a while, but it took a steep dive toward the end, and it was too much, too fast. Music game sales dropped by nearly 50% in 2009. The following year was even more brutal, with a 67% decline in sales. Activision's Band Hero came out in 2009, with a track list that was more meant to appeal to a wider array of fans. Rock Band 3 came out in 2010 with a pro mode that could actually teach you how to play guitar and keyboard. Those were fine ideas, but by the time the world had moved on. Over the course of 2010, just about everything in the music game business fell apart. In February, Activision shuttered Red Octane. In December, MTV's parent company Viacom sold Harmonix. I should point, there was actually a bit of legal issues with that. Now, I'm not fully up to date on that, so I won't go too much into that. But apparently it wasn't a clean break. In early 2011, Activision announced it was done making Guitar Hero games. The craze was over. But what a phenomenon! Just about everyone under the age of 40 who attended a social gathering between 2005 and 2010 got a taste of Guitar Hero or Rock Band. These games got people who hadn't touched a control in years to stand in front of a TV, have a blast playing video games. They even got people to start taking music lessons. The music game popularity spike was incredible while it lasted. And he hit the nail on the head there. It was overbloat that killed the music genre. Now, I'm saying it killed the music genre. Harmonix are still around today and they're still making games. And I'll go into that in a little bit here. But yeah, it was too much too fast. Additionally, I wasn't entirely sold on this idea of Harmonix putting out new games when they had such a good platform, not a game, a platform. I would be more than happy just sticking with Rock Band and just keep those songs coming for Rock Band 1. I don't actually remember playing Rock Band 3. I don't remember that. I think I must have just stuck with Guitar Hero 2 because, again, the downloadable songs you can get were cross-compatible between the 3 games. You weren't restricted. So I think I just stuck with Rock Band 2. I may be wrong, but I don't remember trying out the pro mode. I feel like being a musician myself, I would have tried out the pro mode. But who knows? I'm sure by 2009 I'll be 19, so yeah, that's when the drinking started. So there was probably a lot from that time that I don't quite remember. So yeah, as I've said, Harmonix are still around today. Uh, they went on to make Dance Central for the Kinect, for the Xbox, and I tried that and it was actually really, really good. I never played any of the sequels because, once you played one, you knew what the rest were like. Kinect, that's a story we need to discuss at some point here. But they've done a lot of work for Kinect from Microsoft. Microsoft obviously footing the bill and keeping them afloat probably after the very sudden crash of the genre that they specialised in. I mean, the name Harmonix alone, they're not going to go start making first-person shooters. Ironically, I think they did. But it was a music-based one. I can't recall the name of it now. But yeah, so Harmonix are still around, and most recent, I discussed the Amplitude reboot not too long ago. But I've got a little bit of a paraphernalia here to show you. I don't know if that's the correct word or not. This is something they brought out 3 years ago called Drop Mix. Now, it was made in collaboration with Hasbro, and the idea is it's controlled by your smartphone or your tablet, and you sit here, and it's a card game. Now, the original game came with 60 cards in there. Each card represents a track. A track of a track is what I was about to say. So, for example, this is Evanescence here, Bring Me to Life. We all know that song. That song was #1 here in the UK somehow. Anyway, so this is actually the guitar for Bring Me to Life. So if I had the game running and stuff like that, if I put that down, it would start just playing the guitar from that song. Over here, let's say we've got The Weeknd. This is the drums, let's say. You put that down, and then it's playing the drums and the drums for The Weeknd, but playing the guitar for Evanescence, and it'll mix it that way. So it's a card game where you earn points and stuff like that. The premise is you're mixing and matching parts of different songs to form a remix, basically. Now, from what I can tell, this didn't sell very well because they discontinued it pretty quickly, and the booster packs that released, because it didn't have full songs like that Evanescence bit, for example. You only got the guitar and the vocals. You didn't get the drums or any of the extra bits. But the idea is you get those in booster packs. But I think that's where the issue came in, is booster packs. Like, I know it still works for things like Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. And if you ever want to discuss loot box mechanics, I've got an interesting take on that. So as well as introducing that chase mechanic, I think that combined with the fact that these were probably quite expensive to make, they must have some kind of a little chip here. These do feel a bit thicker than regular playing cards, but it needs something to register the back of the song. So I'm assuming if I was to peel one of these apart, I would find something like a thin strip, kind of like what you get on the base of an amiibo or something like that. But I only actually got this a few days ago, and it's a fun little thing, and it kind of paved the way for what their next song, what their next game was going to be, which was Fuser, which just came out a few months ago, actually. Now, I've not played Fuser. Well, I have played Fuser. I've played the demo for Fuser, and I've not jumped on it just yet. I'm waiting for it to go on deep discount. Only reason being is that it's not a game I see myself sitting down and binge playing. It's a game I'd probably play for 5 minutes a day. Just, quick resume on the Xbox. I've got a spare 5 minutes before I need to go to work. Let's fire up Fuser for a minute. And the game is basically the same mechanics as what I just described here for Drop Mix. It's taking bits of songs and putting them together to form new songs. And it didn't seem like there was much beyond what you're being offered in that demo. Obviously, there was only 3 or 4 songs to pull from in that demo, and it probably had about 50 songs, I think, maybe 80. Can't remember. Pardon me. But yeah, the proposition that was being put up front wasn't something I was diving on. Notice that, again, I kind of lean on more the metal side, and there's a few metal songs in there. They had, like, Rage Against the Machine was in the demo, for example. But, mixing that with Cardi B and stuff like that, and just, it's a bit weird. But as we're coming to the end of this topic, I do want to say that I still love Harmonix. I have, it's like an old lover, I guess you could say. It's, you're still you still got the memories, and you want them to succeed in whatever they're doing now in life. And I hope that Harmonix does have some kind of resurgence in the coming years. I think the main thing that's holding them back, though, is, let's have no misconceptions, music genre of video games is niche now. Even Just Dance by Ubisoft, they bring out a new game every year, but it's hardly selling gangbusters, at least not enough for me to take notice. But it is a very niche genre, and I think for a niche genre to survive, you need the backing and the publicity that comes with streaming. Now, YouTube and Twitch. YouTube and Twitch. Obviously, there's a very sketchy history in terms of copyright claims and stuff like that. And with a music game, you need the music there, and a lot of video games offer streamer-friendly modes. You can enable the options which disables the music or takes out music that doesn't have the rights to be broadcast over streaming. But you can't do that with a game that's entirely a music game. You need all of that content there. So I don't know what the resolution is, but I think until platforms such as YouTube and Twitch have got something in place to allow the fair use of music in certain situations, I think music genre is, it's a niche that's not necessarily going to thrive. Don't get me wrong, I have seen smaller channels streaming Fuser and things like that, but you'll never see the big ones. It's just too much of a risk, why play this game that may get me a strike on my channel when I can go and play this game, which, is safe for me to play. And it's a shame because it's not. There's no direct route to get that resolved. Do you speak directly to the platforms? Do you speak to the license holders for the music? Now, again, my background is in music, so I think what Harmonix really need to do is, when trying to license songs for future games, they need to either negotiate or request that the rights also extend to the broadcast in a digital space. Now, they'd have to be very cautious with terminology, because that, right now, the way I said it there mistakenly makes it sound like they want the rights to, put it over Spotify and music streaming services. So I guess the language there needs a bit, but basically, you need to get the rights in place when they put the songs into their games, that platforms know when they're doing the metadata and the content ID tags, they know that these games have music that have already been licensed and they shouldn't be copyright claimed on the music basis. Again, I'm not a video game developer, I don't know the exacts around that, but based on what I know about the music industry, it's just a case of communicating with those record labels and securing those rights. The only issue is, the more rights you want, the more the money goes up. And one of the reasons why Amplitude, I was speaking about earlier, had kind of a more limited thing, was because, again, it was a Kickstarter. They didn't know what songs were and weren't going to make it in there, so they had to go for some smaller artists. And I think a lot of the artists, I may be wrong, but I'm sure a lot of the artists are actually in-house at Harmonix for Amplitude there. So again, the more rights they try to get there, the more the production goes up, and again, that's a big risk when you're a niche genre. But anyway, I digress. I really do wish Harmonix the best going forward. It's a shame it does seem to have had more misses than hits in recent years. I'm hoping that Fuser did sell well. I've not heard anything about it. Again, maybe other people like me didn't see the value up front there. I will absolutely buy and feedback to you when I do get to play Fuser, because don't get me wrong, the demo was incredibly fun. I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time. I had one song. I had a lot of fun with it. Again, just up front, asking for £60, I think it was, or £50 for 5 minutes a day. It's not good value for me personally. Up front there. So, best of luck, Harmonix.